Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Wake and Take. It's your boy Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. Today is Wednesday, so we're doing a little bit of a market watch, checking how people are reacting to players' performances from week 2. Seeing how that affects our fantasy football market, the top buys, the top sells, the trades that you need to make in both Dynasty and Redraft to stay ahead of the rest of your league coming up. So go ahead, take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And welcome into the chat, everyone. Our fearless producer, Dustin, the Bolgs, Donald, Bach, and the Hairy Snowman, April. Welcome in as well. Good morning to everyone popping into the chat this morning. If you're listening on the podcast as well, thank you for listening. Again, guys, you can find the Wake and Take podcast via the link in the description. If you can't catch the live show and you just want to listen wherever you listen to your podcasts, you can do that. Guys, we're going to keep today's show short. If you remember yesterday, maybe I was a little bit allergy stricken. It turns out I'm just sick. I'm just sick. I'm just generally sick, not feeling very great. But the show must go on. Who am I if I don't do Wake and Take in the morning? So we've got 8 players that we're buying and selling today. And I guess really the rest of the week as we are making moves heading up into Sunday. But this is the market watch, guys. Players that you need to be acquiring or I guess dishing out on your team before it's too late. The market watch. We will start with a sell. Why don't we start with a sell? We could start with a sell, right? And we'll go hot. We'll go hot to everyone's favorite darling, and actually saw this guy hit the trade block in the Wake and Take Invitational League, like literally 10 minutes before we even go on the air. So I'm very sorry to the player on the Wake and Take Invitational League that is trying to sell Derek Carr, and then I come out immediately and say sell Derek Carr. Here's the deal, guys. Here's the deal. Derek Carr right now is the quarterback 2 on the season and has moved up to quarterback 23 in Dynasty, up from like quarterback 28 heading into the year. And honestly, I think he's a sell in both of those regards. Derek Carr does look fantastic now, but it's only a matter of time before he turns into Derek Carr of old. And right now in Dynasty, you could swap him for, say, Tua, or you're in the realm of a lot of rookie quarterbacks if you want to get some youth, like a JJ McCarthy, a Michael Penix, a Drake May. Maybe go crazy, maybe get some Justin Fields. But either way, I think long-term, you're going to want a younger option at the quarterback position in Dynasty. And even over this season, I do believe that Derek Carr will fall off a little bit. And let's be honest here. Yeah, he's the quarterback 2 right now, but it's not like he's really done a lot. He's actually only thrown the ball 39 times so far this year. Like, quarterbacks usually do that in a game. So to see only 39 pass attempts, 443 pass yards, 5 touchdowns to 1 interception, yeah, that's awesome. A lot of it's coming from touchdowns. But how often and how long can the Saints offense keep this up? I'm going to take the stance that they just can't. I know that we have a new offensive coordinator in town with Clint Kubiak, and that's like everyone's darling right now. Like, people are saying the Saints are going to win the NFC South. The Saints are going to make it to the Super Bowl. It's crazy. It's been an awesome 2 weeks, which has made a sell window possible for Derek Carr. This was a guy that you probably couldn't even get a second for going into the season. You could probably nab a first round pick for him right now. And I would do that 10 times out of 10, because again, the pass volume's not really there. The Saints are 32nd in pace of play, 25th in team pass plays per game. Derek Carr is 31st in pass attempts in general. And the efficiency is there, but we'll see how long that lasts, because, yeah, he's 2nd in true completion percentage, but he's only 20th in deep ball completion percentage, 17th in production premium, 14th in clean pocket accuracy rating, 25th in passer rating versus man. It's been an awesome 2 weeks, but it's mostly been off of touchdowns. And I'm just not sure that the Saints can continuously hang 40 points every single week. So I'm looking to sell Derek Carr while I can. In Dynasty, I'd be looking for a young quarterback or, a first and maybe even a second round draft pick. In Seasonal, I'm just trying to swap him really for any quarterback in Seasonal leagues. I think you could get, honestly, a lot more for him in Seasonal almost. Like you could probably get Jared Goff or something for Derek Carr right now. And that's going to be a much better offense over the course of the season. It's very possible that the Saints are only hot right now because there's just not a lot of film on them, right? Like this is a new offensive coordinator, and things are just looking different in general. So if you could sell Derek Carr for a decent price, I would do it. I would get rid of him while you still can. Eventually, he's going to have one of those no touchdown, 3 interception Derek Carr spectaculars. So if you can get rid of him in any league, redraft and dynasty, go ahead and do it. Just go ahead and do it. We don't need pocket passers, especially pocket passers that are sitting as the quarterback 2 right now in seasonal formats. It's unsustainable to me. So I'm moving on from Derek Carr. But I will say his teammate, Rashid Shaheed, I'm in on. I am all in on Rashid Shaheed. I'm changing course. This offseason, I was scared to acquire him. I really was. I don't know. He's one of those players that usually whoever rosters Rashid Shaheed likes him a lot. Which is fair. He's awesome and fun to watch. And I saw the contract that he signed this year. It was only $4 million for the one season. It seemed to me that the Saints didn't really have a big plan for him this season. They didn't pay him a lot of money. They drafted Bub Means. They were keeping Derek Carr. I don't know. It just didn't seem that Rashid Shaheed was going to be a big part of the Saints game plan, but I was wrong. I will admit it. I was wrong as hell. Rashid Shaheed is the wide receiver 1 in New Orleans right now. Like he's getting targeted a ton and he's producing a ton. And him and Derek Carr have a great connection right now. Rashid Shaheed right now is actually the seasonal wide receiver 9, but in Dynasty is all the way down at wide receiver 39. And I do actually think that Rashid Shaheed's production is sustainable. Now, will he have a 60-yard touchdown every week? No. But will he, still get about 5 or so targets and 50 yards every week? Probably. Touchdowns here or there. He's going to have those spike weeks. We haven't even seen a Rashid Shaheed spike week yet, guys. We haven't. Let's be honest here. He's going to have a 2-touchdown game. He might even have a 3-touchdown game this season with the need for Shaheed that he has. So Rashid Shaheed, I'm trying to acquire right now. Again, in Dynasty, he's sitting at wide receiver 39. That's around the range of Jordan Addison, Keon Coleman, Adonai Mitchell, Calvin Ridley, Khalil Shakir, Terry McLaurin, all of which I would swap straight up for Rashid Shaheed. If you can get Rashid Shaheed for a second, I would be doing that as well. I'm not in first round territory yet, but I would throw a second his way in Dynasty. And in redraft, I'd be looking to acquire him too. I really would. I think if you could maybe swap one of your wide receivers, like maybe a Cooper Kupp at this point, given the injury, maybe if you could just get Rashid Shaheed, that might not be that big of a deal. I don't know. But yes, I do agree. MB Prof says he will crash back down to earth this week. I think that's very possible. Again, this is still going to be a spike. Actually, no, I don't think he's going to be a spike week dependent wide receiver. I do think he'll at least have a 10-point floor going forward. Again, him and Derek Carr have a pretty decent connection together. And if you look at PlayerProfiler, he's got a lot of good underlying metrics, actually. Right now, he's 13th in air yard share. He has the 8th most receiving yards. He's 7th in receptions. He's 1st in yards per target, 5th in yards per reception, 1st in yards per team pass attempt, 4th in true catch rate, 7th in yards per route run. He's 7th in average cushion. He's 15th in routes versus man, 3rd in fantasy points per route run. I mean, the guy has been very, very efficient. And I think it's going to continue. We haven't even seen a neutral or negative game script yet. The Saints have been playing from ahead. They're hanging 40 burgers the last few weeks. So eventually we'll have a game where Rashid Shaheed gets 10 targets, right? So I want to buy into him while I can in both Dynasty and Redraft leagues. If you can get Rashid Shaheed on your team, do so. Now, moving on to... Let's stick with buys again. Let's get another buy going. And we'll actually go with Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze, I think, is a buy right now. And, you could probably argue that all Bears are buys right now. I see DJ Moore is pretty undervalued. I see Caleb Williams has lost some value. I do still believe in this Bears offense. And I think we all do deep down. It's just been a very, very rocky start. But let's be honest here, we probably should have expected it. It's very rare for rookie quarterbacks to look like CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson did last year. I mean, think about it this way. Right now, every rookie quarterback has 0 passing touchdowns. Like JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix, Drake May, they all have the same amount of passing touchdowns as Caleb Williams right now. And that to me is just ridiculous. That's not going to last. At some point, Caleb Williams will probably be the prospect he was drafted to be. But as Robert Kelly in the chat points out, Shane Waldron hates good offense. Matt Eberflus can't develop quarterbacks. We know those things. We knew those things going into the season. And that's why we were selling Caleb Williams here on this show. We were selling Caleb Williams here on this show. But at this point, I think we've got to be back into it. And I think I'm going to start with Rome Odunze. I think I will be starting with Rome Odunze because he is going to be quiet still. He's going to be quiet, but he's lost some value sitting at wide receiver 22 in Dynasty. Hasn't done anything in redraft, playing through an MCL sprain. The Bears offense is putrid right now. But like I said, I do think they can turn it around. And Rome Odunze, to me, still heading into the season, we talked about this a lot. I do believe that Rome Odunze at worst will be the wide receiver 2 on this offense. And that's already how it's trending with Keenan Allen picking up his injury. Rome Odunze, honestly, is wide receiver 1 potential too, as DJ Moore is off to a slow start as well. So I do think that by the end of the season, Rome Odunze is going to be the top 10 wide receiver he was drafted for. He's prolific in college. He's a mega hard worker. Like, the guy is a grinder to a T, and we've seen the toughness now that he played through this MCL sprain. And yes, I actually do agree, Robert Kelly, that he might have a bigger window as the year progresses. I agree. I just don't want to take the risk because, as MP Prof says above you, he was dropped in a lot of redraft leagues. He's one of my top pickups. You know, if he was dropped, you got to pick him up. I'm trying to trade for him in redraft as well, and I think that it should be the same in Dynasty. You know, this is just the type of asset where you don't want to risk it, because what happens if next week Caleb Williams looks like Caleb Williams, right? Like, Caleb Williams comes out and throws for 3 touchdown passes. Rome Odunze catches one of them. It's over. It's absolutely over. So yes, there is a potential that Rome Odunze's value keeps falling, but we'll try to catch the falling knife here and continue to catch the falling knife as he's acquirable. Again, wide receiver 22 in Dynasty. And I will say this is mostly a Dynasty take, but I'm fine taking shots on him in deeper redraft as well, because I do think that by the end of the year that this Bears offense will look a lot better. And Rome Odunze, I do think, will be a big part of that. So I want to just acquire him while I can. Again, I understand he's still expensive right now, but I do think that this is kind of close to his floor, at least. Like, it's not like he's going to go below wide receiver 25, really. So if you can get Rome Odunze, do it. And I'll just go ahead and use this time to say buy any Chicago Bear. I think DJ Moore is worth buying. I think Caleb Williams is worth buying. I think DeAndre Swift is worth buying as well. They're all deflated right now. But I do think they'll start to figure out something, whether it be bringing in a new offensive coordinator like mid-season, like they just give up on Shane Waldron, or they just figure it out in general. But they will do it. They will do it. But let's go ahead and move on now from Rome Odunze, one of our buys, to another sell. And we're going to be selling JK Dobbins this week. It's a ticking time bomb. I don't care how good he's looked. I really don't. He still looks less than 100%. He still looks unhealthy. So if you have JK Dobbins, you can sell him for a lot right now. A lot right now. He's sitting at the RB20 in Dynasty, is sitting as the seasonal RB4. You could trade him for so many things in seasonal, especially. People are in love with JK Dobbins right now. It's honestly crazy to me. And we'll see how it develops over the course of the season. You know, I could end up having egg on my face, but a player that's been injured every single season in the league, I just don't think is going to be able to last all year. This is an injury take, you know, and I hate having these, but let's be honest here. JK Dobbins, even when we're watching him in his breakaway runs, looks like he's jogging. He loses speed after like 20 yards. Like, he has no stamina anymore. It's clearly still, he has lost a lot of his explosiveness. And yes, JK Dobbins, less than 100% is still better than a lot of running backs in the league, right? 130 yards and a touchdown in back-to-back weeks, 20 points in back-to-back weeks, 13 or more touches in back-to-back weeks on a Chargers team that's running the ball a lot. You know, everything is pointing towards JK Dobbins having a great season, which is why you can sell him, I see in the chat, someone off like saying, hey, should I offer a second for JK Dobbins? I would say the opposite. If you can get a second for JK Dobbins, I would do it. Damn sure do it if you could get a first. Any draft pick, really. Second. Second is probably what we're looking for right now, but if maybe like 3/3 could be fun as well, something like that. Either way, JK Dobbins is someone I want to get out of before it's too late. Because even in Dynasty, as the RB20, he's around running backs like Joe Mixon, Brian Robinson, Rashad White, David Montgomery, James Conner, Derrick Henry, Trey Benson, Tony Pollard, right? Like, if you could take J.K. Dobbins and get Trey Benson in a pick, do it, okay? Like, if you can get Jonathan Brooks or something, do it. Get rid of J.K. Dobbins before it's too late. It's not sustainable over the course of the season. And we are still very much believing in Kamani Vidal over the course of the year. And if you look at some of J.K. Dobbins' underlying metrics, you'll see that he has actually been way more efficient than he should. He's only 34th in expected fantasy points per game, only expected to score 10.7 points per game, but has been putting up 21.5, which is just incredible. He's leading the NFL in rush yards so far. But he's only 29th in opportunity share, 31st in weighted opportunities, 13th in routes run, 25th in juke rate, 24th in evaded tackles. It's just, again, this is just not sustainable to me. You have to be realistic when you have J.K. Dobbins. And if you can get rid of him for any usable running back, do it. If you can get a second round pick, I know it sucks that you're losing some production right now. But next year in your draft, you'll be so excited that you have that second round pick for a running back that probably you're not even rostering, or that no one's rostering heading into 2025. Either way, get rid of him while you can. Next, we are, speaking of injury prone, we're buying Christian McCaffrey. We're buying Christian McCaffrey in Dynasty. We're buying Christian McCaffrey in Redraft. He's going to be healthy when he comes back. That's kind of the thing here. Like, yeah, it is frustrating what's happened here with Christian McCaffrey, landing on IR, missing week 1 before landing on IR, adding an extra week of his absence. But they're doing this so he's healthy. They're doing this so he can, heal up completely and be utilized when he returns. So I'm actually happy that he's missing some extra weeks because that makes him acquirable right now. This is like the fantasy football player, right? Over 20 points a game the last 2 seasons, number 1 and 2 respectively, has had over 1,000 yards. In fact, almost 2,000 yards in back-to-back seasons, has had at least 13 touchdowns, had 21 touchdowns last year. He's just a stud on this offense when healthy. And when he returns, that's going to continue. So if you can get Christian McCaffrey right now as the Dynasty RB6, definitely do it. Like, if you could trade James Cook, for example, and get Christian McCaffrey, do it. And in seasonal, if he was maybe in a shallow league dropped, I picked him up in a guillotine league, so that's a little bit different. But if you could trade for him, in maybe a no IR league and someone's just getting frustrated with him, or if you could just get him in general, you probably can because of his injury, because he's on IR. He's super acquirable. And Christian McCaffrey never is acquirable. And this is kind of different too, because normally when we talk about buying superstars, we just talk about the window opening, right? Like, we say, all right, the price hasn't changed to acquire Jamar Chase right now. He's still super expensive, but you can buy him. And that's important, right? Like, just the fact that a window is open is huge for Christian McCaffrey. But in this deal, Christian McCaffrey is also, his price is lower as well. So if you can get Christian McCaffrey, do it. Like in Redraft, Derrick Henry for Christian McCaffrey. I don't care. Do it. Get CMC on your team before it's too late. I see a question here, and I'm going to go ahead and answer it. Will Zay Flowers still be a beta alpha if he has another 10-plus target game? Yes. Is Wan'Dale Robinson a beta alpha with 12 targets in week 1? Yes. Targets, especially low ADOT targets, don't mean too much. Zay Flowers is a beta alpha. He's fine. We like him, but we just don't love him like a lot of people do. So far, we've had 4 buys and sells. Let's move on to another one. We will be talking some. Where should we go here? Let's do Alec Pierce. And this one, I understand that this one's maybe a cheap one. But Alec Pierce right now is doing well. And I've never seen a selling window for this player. As someone who was a huge Alec Pierce defender his rookie and second year seasons and then finally gave up on him heading into this season. So of course he's going to hit. Of course he's going to hit. Of course he's going to hit. I've never seen a selling window for him. In fact, I've always been made fun of for even rostering this guy. But now he is the seasonal wide receiver 8 coming off of back-to-back touchdown games. Seems to be Anthony Richardson's favorite target, is sitting as the Dynasty wide receiver 58. This to me is a selling opportunity. This is another player where his production is just not sustainable. And when you look at the wide receivers in his range, it's very interesting. Michael Wilson, Deontay Johnson, Jerry Jeudy, Keenan Allen, Christian Kirk. You know, like these wide receivers are probably going to be a little bit more productive over the course of the year. And I mean, this is also partly an Anthony Richardson take. I mean, yes, right now, Alec Pierce and Anthony Richardson are connecting at an unbelievable rate, but also at some point, you know, he's going to find a Michael Pittman game. You know, Adonai Mitchell's going to be more involved. You know, Josh Downs will be back. Like, there's just those things on top of Alec Pierce just probably being fluky is a selling opportunity for me. If you could get like a third-round pick for him in Dynasty, I know it sounds crazy. I'm doing it. If you can get a third-round pick, just give me the third over Alec Pierce. Give me that roster spot. I'm never really going to feel comfortable starting this guy, unfortunately. And then also in seasonal, right? With him being ranked so high, wide receiver 8 in points so far, you could probably swap him for a lot of different actual productive players that maybe have been underperforming so far this season. So just put him on the block, see what you could get. For the most part, I'm going to accept any trade that comes in for him. I just don't think this is sustainable. And I damn sure don't think that this is a player that you can ever actually comfortably start. So I'm getting rid of Alec Pierce in Dynasty and in Redraft. Eventually, Adonai Mitchell's going to take over for him. In fact, if you can take Alec Pierce and get Adonai Mitchell plus, do it. Do it. That would definitely be the big one. Yeah. And exactly, like you got Pierce for free, and Anthony Richardson is a deep ball monster. That's why you should get rid of a player you got for free. Anytime an asset goes from free to draft capital, probably just take the draft capital because you can get another free player that's probably gonna, kind of do the same thing. Just any asset that you can get for Alec Pierce, do it. It's time to move on. He's had a great 2 weeks, another ticking time bomb. This is in no way sustainable over the course of the season. And then we have Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney is a buy right now. I know he had a big week too, so his price has probably gone up a little bit. In fact, owners maybe not shopping him just to see how it develops. But I do think that he proved a lot in this game. And I know it's a one-game sample, really, because week 1, he didn't look that great. No one on the Falcons offense really did. But we saw the Falcons offense come to life at the end of that game. And one thing we noticed a lot, too, was Darnell Mooney sitting on the sideline with Kirk Cousins. We know this offseason, Kirk Cousins had a camp that Darnell Mooney was at as well. They were working on their connection together all offseason, brought in together as free agents. He's a speedster, and he runs really good routes. He was getting open at an unbelievable rate, both week 1 and week 2. And right now, he's the wide receiver 38 in seasonal, the wide receiver 72 in Dynasty. If you can get Darnell Mooney for a third right now, do it. And some players around him that I would be looking to swap, like if you could take Tyler Lockett or Josh Palmer and get Mooney, I'd do it. Greg Dortch, Demario Douglas, Jordan Whittington, I would do it. This is a player that I do think is going to be one of Kirk Cousins' favorite reads over the course of the season. And with his speed, I do think that he's going to be awesome. Our producer D, he's one of our game charters here at Player Profiler. And yeah, he is getting open like all the time. And that's going to translate to points over the course of the season. Right now, he had a big week. So I could see players in fantasy football being like, all right, it's time to sell high on Darnell Mooney or something. But I don't know. I think that this is actually sustainable. And we'll see some more Darnell Mooney spike weeks. And we'll probably even see a decent bit of floor from him over the course of the year as well. Yeah, I like myself some Darnell Mooney right now. He's running all the routes, right? Running all the routes, 100% route participation. He's 12th in snap share right now amongst wide receivers. He's 9th in route win rate, 7th in total route wins, 1st in contested catch rate, has an average cushion of 8.5 yards right now. This guy is doing everything right. And this Falcons offense, I do think, is going to be getting a lot better over the course of the year too as Kirk Cousins gets healthier. So really any Falcon that you can buy for a decent price, I'm doing it. But we'll start with the really, really cheap productive wide receiver, Darnell Mooney, to the moon. And the last player of today's Market Watch is Chris Godwin. We're buying the hype on Chris Godwin, guys. I know he's risen a lot. I know he's going to be very expensive to acquire right now, but this is another player where his production is actually sustainable. We've seen Chris Godwin before in the slot. We talked about it when it was announced, right, that we're trying to get Chris Godwin on as many teams as possible this offseason, because him in the slot has been nothing but success over his career. And we're seeing it unfold now. Right now, he's the wide receiver 1 in seasonal leagues, but only the wide receiver 33 in Dynasty. He has 16 targets so far, has brought in 15 of them, has 200 receiving yards so far, and 2 touchdowns. Just been unbelievable. And that type of usage is actually sustainable. You know, maybe not the touchdowns on a week-to-week basis, but the targets, the volume, the receptions, the usage. Chris Godwin is awesome. And you can get him right now for T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, Jordan Addison, Deebo Samuel, you know, like those types of receivers where Chris Godwin is going to have a higher floor and even have some of those spike weeks. We haven't even seen the spike weeks yet for Chris Godwin, right? Like, yes, last week, 7 receptions, 117 yards for 25 points. There's more on the table for a player like Chris Godwin. He's only 28 years old. He's looking like Baker Mayfield's favorite read this season. If you can get Chris Godwin for a decent price, I'd do it. I would send a second his way in Dynasty, maybe a late first. Honestly, I'm reaching that point almost. And I already mentioned the players that I would swap for him. Again, he's leading the NFL all wide receivers in touchdowns. He's leading all wide receivers in fantasy points per game. He's second in receptions, second in receiving yards, second in EPA, first in total fantasy points. And he's just looking awesome. A big part of this Buccaneers offense. Chris Godwin in the slot is fantastic news. Get him on your squad. Those are the buys and sells. That was the Market Watch. I saw a bunch of questions flood into the chat throughout the show. I wanted to get through the buys and sells, but I will go ahead and answer some questions now. So going back up to the top, I see the Bulls says buy down, sell Pierce. Yeah, we are selling Alec Pierce. I don't know if I'm like buying Josh Downs, though. I'll pick him up if he's available, but I don't think that there's enough passing volume in this Colts offense to really feel comfortable about any of them. Let's see. The next question. Would you trade Jordan Mason or Ramondre Stevenson for Josh Allen? If you could trade Jordan Mason for Josh Allen, 100,000,000%, you've got to do that. Let's see. Desperate for advice on this trade. You're trading away Christian McCaffrey and DK Metcalf. You would get Bijan Robinson, Jerome Ford, and Jonathan Brooks. That is, honestly, that might be a move I would make. I know we're talking about buying Christian McCaffrey, but, I mean, any trade where you can get Bijan Robinson is just awesome, let alone you're also getting a rookie running back in Jonathan Brooks, who looks like he'll be awesome over the course of the year. Now, I guess I should maybe clarify, is this Dynasty? If this is Dynasty, definitely do it, but I think I'm leaning towards it in Redraft as well, as Bijan's healthy. Jerome Ford's a big part of this Browns offense. Jonathan Brooks will be huge when he returns from his injury, I think, you know, depending on how Andy Dalton looks. So I think I am taking this trade in both Dynasty and Redraft. I love myself some Bijan Robinson for sure. Let's see. Would you trade Mike Evans for Rashid Shaheed? Not yet. I mean, maybe. I would ask for like Shaheed in a third, maybe try to get a third. I think that's where the rest of your question asks, what pick should I ask for on top of Shaheed? I think if you can get a third, that'll close the gap. It's very close, especially since it's Dynasty. Getting a little bit younger is huge. But Mike Evans is a Hall of Famer. Should I drop Anthony Richardson for Derek Carr or Geno Smith? No. What's Braylon Allen's Dynasty look like? Good. Good. Yeah. Handcuff plus, honestly, at this point, definitely someone to roster. Would you drop Christian Watson for Christian Kirk? No, I do want to hold on to Christian Watson for when Jordan Love returns. Would you drop Chuba Hubbard for Zamir White? Not yet. This Raiders backfield seems to be a bit of a committee with Zamir White and Alexander Madison, and they're not really looking that good in terms of the run game. Chuba Hubbard, I would like to see how he looks this week with Andy Dalton. He should catch a decent bit of checkdowns, so he should be really, really good for PPR leagues. Do you think I can get a top 10 consensus Dynasty wide receiver with DJ Moore, Tank Dell, and a 2026 second? Yes, but I would honestly hold on to those assets. That's a lot to trade for one wide receiver. Now, it depends who it is. No, like I don't want you to do that for Tyreek Hill, Puka Nacua, or Garrett Wilson. But I mean, if you could do that for Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors, that might be where I feel a bit more comfortable. But those are some really good assets, DJ Moore and Tank Dell, and the 2026 second, to where I might just hold on to those right now. Let's see. I guess you're right, the Bulldogs. I am low-key saying that Carr will be good after all, but good still is a selling opportunity. Look, you can get Derek Carr production elsewhere very, very easily. So if you can get anything for Derek Carr, just do it. Yes, I would trade JK Dobbins for a 2025 second. Would you rather buy low on George Pickens or Tank Dell? If it is the same price, if it's like the same price, it's George Pickens. But I think Tank Dell is a little bit cheaper to acquire right now. So I'd rather be looking to acquire Tank Dell. I do think Tank Dell turns it around. I'm still very much in on Tank Dell in Dynasty. I think he's going to be a stud. Would you trade Ayuk and Bowers for Amon-Ra St. Brown and Mark Andrews? Yes. I know it's crazy, but yes. Amon-Ra St. Brown getting any share of his is awesome. He's well more valuable than Brandon Ayuk. And then Mark Andrews, I do think he turns it around as well. He's still the top tier Dynasty tight end, so I don't think the downgrade from Bowers to him is that big of a deal, at least in relation to the upgrade from Brandon Ayuk to the Sun God. Let's see. You were offered Aaron Jones for a second-round pick. That is I would say that's too much because Aaron Jones, we have the injury concerns and the age concerns with him. Ty Chandler's getting a lot of usage. I would not give a second for Aaron Jones. Let's see. Are people sleeping on Samaje? I think so. I'm seeing a lot of people getting really excited about Carson Steele, but I think this is going to be a total committee in Kansas City. And I could definitely see Samaje being a big part of it. He's been on the team before. He's one of those players coaches really, really like, and he's got the all-purpose skill set. So if you can get, I do think that people are sleeping on him. I want to take shots on all of them. Like if I can get any of the Chiefs running backs, I want to do it. But I do think it'll be a committee. Chris Godwin and George Pickens for Garrett Wilson. Yeah, we'll take the upgrade to Garrett Wilson. I'm not a huge Garrett Wilson guy, but I think the roster space on top of just getting a top-tier wide receiver is a great idea. I do like those two assets, but I think that's a decent trade for you. Let's see. Going down still. What should we do with Kincaid? Last week, he was a sell. I don't know if you can sell him anymore, but if you can still sell him for top-tier stuff, do it. But the big deal here, or the big thing here kind of is you've got to hold on to him at this point, I think, unless you can still get top tier return. I do still think he'll be a tight end one. Like I do still think he'll finish in the top 10 at the position probably. He will have some good weeks. But right now he's definitely underwhelming and underperforming. So probably a hold or a sell if you can get a good return. But right now I don't think you can. So more than likely a hold. Would you drop Dalton Schultz for Hunter Henry? Honestly, maybe, to be honest. I think Hunter Henry is a little bit more of a safety net here. And Dalton Schultz just there's not enough volume to go around in Houston behind those three wide receivers. Are we buying the new Quentin Johnston and JSN expanded role? Yes and no. I think that Quentin Johnston's role is exactly the same. 5 targets. That's exactly what we expected heading into the season. We talked about it a lot. I said, with Jim Harbaugh, do not be surprised if Quentin Johnston has weeks, but he's more than likely still going to be a roster clogger. You're never going to know when to start him. He's going to get some targets. He's going to be utilized, but he's not really going to end up being consistent, I don't think. And I'm sure it'll bounce back between him and Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey will end up being the more consistent one. But just, we talked about it. Quentin Johnston was just forced into the Mike Williams role, and he's not a Mike Williams producer. He's not a Mike Williams receiver. He's not that type of receiver at all. So if you can put Quentin Johnston and let him do his actual things that he's good at, he's going to produce. And that's what we're seeing now. So we are kind of buying into him, but he's mostly a sell for me in Dynasty. I think right now I've seen a few good trades for him. I was able to use him in a trade. I traded Justin Fields, James Cook, and Quentin Johnston for Anthony Richardson in a super flex. So if you could just put him in a package or something, I would do it. Would you sell Tyreek Hill? I have been telling people to sell Tyreek Hill all offseason. There was no reason that Tyreek Hill should have been valued as high as he is. He's still valued very highly with Skylar Thompson at quarterback. So if you can still get top tier return for Tyreek Hill, yes, he's still a sell. You know, it was ridiculous to me how expensive he was. So yes, if you could sell him, sell him. Would you trade Brock Purdy and George Pickens for Mahomes in single quarterback league? I think I would hold Purdy and Pickens, but it is very, very close. I do need cold meds. I feel so sick. I feel awful. You were just offered Justice Hill and Josh Downs for Rico Dowdle. I would do that. Yeah, if you get Justice Hill and Josh Downs, I like those two assets. Would you trade Austin Eckler for DeAndre Swift? Yes, 1,000 times yes. Yes, Jamar Chase is a buy low. It's just I don't think you can buy low on Jamar Chase. Like he's just one of those players where the buying window is open, right? Like it's open, and that's fine. So yes, if you can buy Jamar Chase, do it. But he's still going to be very, very expensive. So yeah. Anyway, should I trade Kyren Williams or JK Dobbins for Jamar Chase? Either one of them. If you can get Jamar Chase for Kyren Williams or JK Dobbins, do it. I would trade Kyren Williams and JK Dobbins for Jamar Chase. That's an easy smash 1,000% of the time. All right, last question, guys. Last question. I'm starting to feel awful right now. I really am. It's catching up to me. How do I rate these players? Brenton Strange, Luke Schoonmaker, Chig Okonkwo, Greg Dulcich, Eric All. Eric All at the bottom. Then Brenton Strange, then Luke Schoonmaker, then Dulcich, then Chig, I think. That's a tough one. I don't know. I don't like that question. I don't want to end it there. Yes, we're trading Isaiah Likely for Dalton Kincaid. Yes, we are. Ryan, I'm sick. I thought it was allergies yesterday. I am sick. I feel awful. I definitely am sick. But anyway, thank you, Robert. Thank you. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. This was another fun episode of Wake and Take. This was the Market Watch top 8 buys and sells heading into week 3. Yeah. So thank you all so much for tuning in. You all have a wonderful Wednesday, a magnificent rest of your week, and I'll see you all tomorrow as we do a little bit of an NFL news rundown, give you all the updates from around the league, and probably go into a little bit of a week 3 preview. You all have a good one. Peace.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.